In the classic 1967 film, The Graduate, a young Dustin Hoffman is given career advice by one of his father's friends. Plastics. There's a great future in plastics. From there, we travel in time, from the miracle of plastics to their ubiquity. Now, they're a part of everything we do. 79% of plastic globally produced each year is sent to the landfill. That's the equivalent of 10 million garbage trucks. And then we look at fast fashion, an industry that is the second biggest consumer of water and is responsible for about 10% of global carbon emissions, more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. Happily, not one, but two amazing people were tackling these problems before they'd even finished their freshman year at college. They both had one common vision: infinite recycling. Miranda Wang, CEO of Novoloop, takes plastic bags and packaging to become TPU resin, making for an easy integration into standard manufacturing processes. And Shay Sethi is CEO of Ambercycle, a circular economy startup that's developed a way to repeatedly recycle and reuse polyester in clothing, and is now working with Ganni, the high-end Danish fashion brand, among others. These two innovators were impacting their industries and creating global companies well before they graduated college. I'm Alex Honnold, professional rock climber and founder of the Honnold Foundation, bringing you stories of inspiring people who are helping to solve some of today's most pressing conservation issues. From the Rolex Perpetual Planet Initiative, this is Planet Visionaries.
My name is Miranda Wang. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Novoloop. Novoloop is a circular innovation company focused on converting hard-to-recycle plastic waste into high-value materials that can be used over and over again by using new chemistry.
Miranda Wang found her passion in school when she joined the recycling club.
My high school best friend, who's now my co-founder, Jeannie Yao, she and I actually met at the first meeting in 8th grade at this recycling club. And every Friday afternoon, we were like the small group of kids who would like not go home or go play sports, but go and like sort all of the beverage container recyclables at school. So that's how I got into recycling.
As early as 15 years of age, Miranda and Jeannie were already thinking like problem solvers.
One of the main moments on this journey that made Jeannie and me realize, like, hey, we actually need to innovate something that doesn't exist here, was in 10th grade when we visited a waste management center in Vancouver. And we saw how outside of beverage containers, a whole bunch of other things are made of plastic, and they don't get recycled. They end up, going to this waste management, waste transfer center station where it gets crushed and compressed before it gets taken to the landfill.
Miranda's family had raised her to love the beauty of nature and want to protect it. In real terms, that meant finding a way to make recycling the unrecyclable attractive to investors so that she and Jeannie could make that vision a reality.
That made us think about, well, can we create value out of that so that it makes sense for people to be recycling it as opposed to crushing it and putting it in landfill?
In 2015, they found their first investor.
He tapped us and he said, why don't you start a company, and we have an accelerator program. We'll fund you guys $50,000, but you have to form a company to receive it. We're not going to give the money to you personally. When you're like 21 years old, there's not a whole lot of downsides to trying something like that.
By 2019, Miranda and Jeannie Yeo had figured out how to break down polyethylene, the first steps to recycling the very material that was being thrown into landfills all those years ago on the school field trip to the waste center.
As a Rolex Awards laureate, I've been able to lead a team here in California to develop this technology and now to scale this technology to a demonstration plant in Surat, India. So it's quite a journey, right? Because it's not just about creating a new technology, developing it, making products out of it, getting product market fit, but you also have to build custom factories based on these new chemical innovations.
But for Miranda, this isn't just business, it's personal.
My first son was born 2023, and I have another one coming. I know a lot of people are like, I look at my kids and I think about I need to hand them a better world. It's like, I want a better world for myself too,
Let's meet Miranda Wang and Shay Sethi and find out how they both came to be CEOs in their early 20s and what they've learned from the process. Shay, tell us about yourself.
I am the co-founder and CEO of Ambercycle. I started Ambercycle about 10 years ago with my roommate from college, Moby. We started the company wanting to solve a very simple problem, which is how do we better deal with textile waste? So We take old clothing, turn it into new clothing through a brand new molecular recycling process.
Are you guys friends? Or like,
Yeah,
you
so
know?
Shay and I have known each other since 2016.
Yeah.
So our first year doing this. He and I have a lot in common. And first, both of us started out looking into biochemical methods to be able to break down plastics, and both pivoted into chemical processes. His company is a little bit further ahead than we are even. They are already building their first commercial factory. I'll let him talk about that. And he is working on solving the really challenging problem of textile recycling, because most of the textiles we wear are actually made of plastic. It's another plastic. It's called PET. The number one plastic is also the one used in water bottles. So he and I, to combined, we've got numbers 1, 2, and 3 covered on the recycling logo. So I'm really excited that he's interested to be here today.
Why did you get so interested in textiles and sort of garment waste? Like, why was that the thing that was interesting?
It was this experience of, I had this small bag of clothing in my closet, and we were about to graduate from UC Davis, and we were thinking about all of the different problems in the world, and just started one night asking a question like, where does this material go? What happens to it when we're done wearing it? And even if you donate this material to your younger brother, younger sister, eventually this material will wear out and you have to throw it away. And so we just started asking the question, where does this material go? Did a bunch of research and found out that, much to our surprise, it by and large goes to landfills. It's around 11% of landfill material in California, and that number is only increasing. And so
you say that 11% of the mass in landfills in California is garments?
Is fiber waste. Yeah,
that is kind
exactly.
of shocking, because when you think of like construction waste and like concrete and like just the tremendous amount of mass generated by human activity, like that's crazy actually.
From the human experience, the production of clothing waste is shocking, and it didn't make sense initially, but if you think about it, everyone wears clothing every day, and everyone has a plethora of garments, and then that material does get churned, and we end up just throwing most of it away, whether we know it or not.
Funny, I think I'm slightly out of touch with the whole garment industry, because I've been sponsored by the North Face for my entire career as a rock climber. But so for the last 17 years, they send a sample box once a season where you just get all the new things, and that's literally all I wear. And so I've never purchased garments. I never, I just wear what I'm sent, and then that's it. I forget that fast fashion even exists, because you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty out of touch with that. But that's pretty shocking to hear.
Yeah, and it's only going up. And most of this material 2,000 years ago was all just one material, was all cotton. But in the past 100 years especially, we've wanted more stretch. We've wanted anti-wicking properties. This has meant that nylon, polyester, spandex, acrylic, dyes, additives that do all sorts of things for performance benefits also have been incorporated into the closets of not just us, but everyone in the world. And so these materials have become very complicated from a end of life perspective, because they're just mixtures of a bunch of different materials. And so the overall concept of what is circularity is, how do we separate these materials back out and reuse these individual molecules? And I guess from an energy perspective, we've already put so much energy into making these molecules that have functions. So how can we better utilize these molecules instead of just throwing them away? And if we can extend the life of these garments and the molecules in the garments, then that should be able to reduce not only our dependence on raw materials from the earth. I mean, polyester, nylon, spandex, these effectively come from petroleum, and cotton, cellulose, they come from materials grown from the earth. And so how do we reduce our reliance on natural resources and try and establish a more sustainable business model? That's the real opportunity.
At what point did each of you guys start thinking of yourselves as real CEOs? When you start a company like this in college, basically, and you have an idea, as you slowly see your idea mature and develop and become a viable business, you guys could each be the moguls of the future. It's like if you're basically developing raw materials like this, like how does that happen?
I think it's not necessarily by choice. It's a forcing function just to grow and develop a organization. And it's almost like we both started as with technical backgrounds as scientists, but when you're growing something, then also seeing others that are along the journey with you and realizing that over time, both Miranda and I, our job descriptions, our scopes of work have definitely changed. And it's not just about how do we make ourselves the best, but how do we develop a team? How do we develop an ecosystem? How do we engage the right partners as an organization to grow? And there's not really one way to do it that's correct. And so I think we've adopted our own styles, but we're overall just trying to grow the thing that we started. And we both have co-founders that have been also very supportive, and I think that's also very, very rare to find. So people need to continue to push these ideas forward, because if we don't, then we need also successes for others to then be inspired to do the same thing that we did 8, 9, 10 years ago.
There is like kind of a demarcation on the journey between this is like a project that I think is really cool, evolved out of, childhood hobby or passion, if you call it, with my best friend, to like, oh wow, I need to level up. This is a professional job, right? Like there are people counting on me. I think that transition kind of started happening around Series A, when we raised Series A. So we had raised $21 million. When you start working with professional venture capitalists, people who are managing other people's money and expect a return on a timeline, right? When your technology is good enough to bring those people on board, and then when you start to hire technical professionals who are coming in and saying, okay, you're hiring me to do this engineering work or to do the science work. Where are you at? Oh, okay, I'm looking at this and I have to see, like, is this something I can even build upon, right? Like when you start interfacing with people who are serious about their careers and actually they believe you, they want to build upon it. So the formalization started really around Series A.
To what extent has Rolex's support impacted your work?
So Rolex first supported us in 2019, and we were really early stage still in our technology, and the philanthropic funding helped us be able to, get through some of the critical developments in the lab. And then in 2024, last year, Rolex again was very instrumental in helping us set up the demonstration plant in India, which allowed us to show this like new system that we designed, this new process can run reliably. And we were able to run it nonstop for 100 hours. And now we're working on a 1,000 hour demonstration. So these are some critical points that a new chemical technology has to go through to be able to fully industrialize. And Rolex was with us along this whole journey. And I'm just really happy that been able to bring Shay now into this like Rolex family with the little halo here to get spotlighted. Because what Shay is doing is just really incredible.
What we're trying to do, both Miranda and I, is start to create change that can then, as you mentioned, get to some really industrial scale, and the impact can be very, very high. And everything's difficult in this world, but you might as well spend the time doing something that's difficult. But if it works in a huge way. So yeah, it's been a great honor to also in this industry talk with people like Miranda and just go through we're on our journeys that are very parallel, where we're and having also, I mean, for us, we have so much similarities in our journeys that I think are really, really unique and really special. And so it's great to showcase as well.
Can both of you guys explain to me, as someone who doesn't really remember my chemistry that well, how your processes are similar, how they're different, and how they target specific types of plastic?
Yeah, so Shay and I are targeting different starting materials and we'll make different products, but both of us are doing it with new chemical processes. So for what Novoloop is doing is, we're taking the plastic that's like, for example, used in just say shopping bag. We take a shopping bag, we break it down into chemicals, and then the final material we build out of those chemicals are plastic pellets that are then used to make polyurethane. So polyurethane is, you all know it. It's like your mattress. Your mattress foam is a foamed up polyurethane.
You say leathers, you all know it, but honestly, I don't know. We just bought a new mattress because like nobody knows that. Like I think of a mattress as a mattress. I think it's like made
like
of
a memory foam mattress. A memory foam mattress is so comfortable because the whole thing is perfectly blown up to hold your weight, and that material is polyurethane. That polyurethane is a chemical.
But this is maybe a fundamental problem with the modern world, is that I wouldn't really know that there's plastic inside my mattress because I don't know what's in my mattress because all I feel is this soft exterior, and I'm like, this is, it's magic. I mean, so much of the modern world is
also
magic.
Plastic.
Yeah.
It's also plastic, and that is the plastic that Shay works in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you think about the biggest plastics used in the world, there's polyethylenes and then polyesters. And so Miranda's working on polyethylene and we're working on polyester. And these are pervasive in our everyday life. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's kind of my experience. So whenever I see something, it's like, well, that's just a form of plastic.
I mean, I don't know. To me, it seems impossible to take a garment. Well, I don't even understand what's in the garment to begin with. And then how do you separate it back into its constituent parts and maintain the same purity?
If you take a t-shirt, it's a mixture of mostly polyester and cotton. What we do is we separate those materials using new chemistry, and those materials get separated at the molecular level. And so the polyester comes out, the nylon comes out, the cellulose comes out.
Does that works?
The source of my gray hairs is actually getting it to work. But I think if you step back, it's like, okay, wow, like this is pretty crazy. I can throw old clothing or old stuff into a set of stainless steel tanks, and I can develop a process that actually purifies these materials. And I think for both of us, it's small steps that if you zoom out in a 10, 20-year period, it's like, wow, this is really, it's true scientific innovation, which is really, really exciting.
And the important thing is, like, you can't just do that in a lab and be like, whoa, look, let's go get a Nobel Prize. Like, that's not good enough. You have to build factories and eventually be able to make all these things, not only reliably to the right quality people are used to, but you got to be able to do it with the right sustainability, because you can't be a very polluting process, right? You have to be at least no worse than the current fossil fuel or extraction, natural resource extraction value chain. And then at the end, the price has to be something people can accept. You still got to make circular shoes, circular shirts, and be able to sell them at a price that everybody can afford. So it's very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, is this the way I should think about the world in the future? Like, as the world becomes more circular, is it really just going to be a matter of energy and inputs to turn things back into? I mean, it starts to feel a little Star Trek-y in a way, where materials just become other materials. Like, you add the right amount of energy and the right chemical process, and one material becomes another material. I mean, is that the world that we're slowly starting to move into?
I definitely agree. I think over time, there's going to be more of a push towards how do you optimize what we have instead of searching for something new that may or may not already be out there. For example, Patagonia, we actually just launched a product with them, and they also, a lot of the brands understand this too, and the people at the brands are also very, very motivated to make these changes. It just takes some time because these new processes, they do take time to mature. You have to actually feel the product. You have to feel the shoe. You have to feel the garment. That's when it kind of becomes real for people. And technology should be not necessarily where things come from, but a tool for us to solve problems. And I think that's the frame of mind that both of us have.
What do you guys think is the timeline for a truly circular economy?
With every real game-changing innovation, there's usually this 20-year backstory. And so I think Miranda and I entered the game when there was about 5 years of backstory. We've been doing this, 8, 9, almost 10 years now. And so
you think you're getting close?
We feel like we're getting very close. And oftentimes the funny thing with change is it seems like no progress is being made. And then overnight, everyone's like, wow, how did this all happen all at once?
How many competitors are there in the space? Like, are there, a handful of other companies trying things like this?
I would say that everybody is doing something a little different. Honestly, the issue is there's not enough people working on the circular economy, and it is a very challenging path to be able to develop a technology that's economical, to scale it, to get customers to adopt it. there are so many skills that you need to have, so many encounters with the right people you need to make to be able to bring this into the world. It's truly like it's new industrialization, you know. Now it's kind of like, okay, you're gonna make another version of this is sustainable. Okay, are you gonna be the same price? Are you gonna be even cheaper? You know, this is the sort of expectation that we have to go against. It's very challenging. So there are others working on it, and generally, you know, we keep close. We keep each other close, and we try to help each other out, actually, because the better that any one company does, the more investors and the community and the ecosystem gets inspired to believe this is possible. And so it's very hard to compete against the status quo.
What's the end vision for what you think you can achieve through your company?
The defining success for us is when people reach in their closets and they pull out a garment and they say, oh, I can Ambercycle this, or, oh, this doesn't have to go to landfill, and for people to have a more close understanding of what materials are in their lives. And so until that problem is really solved, I don't think we will think about stopping or quitting. And that for us, it can mean it might take 5 more years, 10 more years, it might take 30 more years, but if that's what's required, then that's what's required. And the tipping point is going to be for sure when both Miranda and I establish these commercial scale facilities. For example, we're planning one that'll do 250,000 t-shirts a day of material. And so at that scale, then you can really start to make a dent in these problems. And that's when the economics make sense, the whole thing gets validated, and then it's just a scaling question.
Did you say you're planning a facility that can do 200,000 t-shirts a day?
250,000 t-shirts a day. Yep.
That's so many t-shirts.
There's a lot of t-shirts in the world that gets thrown away every minute.
That's crazy though.
For us, you know, like Novoloop, the whole point is to create new ways, new pathways to increase circularity. So the mission is kind of a never-ending one until the world is fixed, you know, because the reality is there's so many kinds of plastic and so many reasons why those plastics are not being recycled and fully circular today. So there's so many ways to address those individual problems. And right now we're focusing on one that we think, you know, is for sure to stick around. It's going to be a pervasive problem. But over time, just like Shay said, it's, you know, the vision is to continue working on solving these problems until the world is circular, because I don't think we have any other solution. You know, our landfills are so full already that a lot of countries have to incinerate. The incineration is creating so much greenhouse gas emissions. We are already missing the 1.5%, you know, mark. Like what else can we do? We have more people joining this planet in this next half century. Everyone needs clothing. Everyone needs products that are coming in plastic packaging. How else do you sustain all these people and all these activities and all these materials on the planet if it's not circular?
Like, why weren't your company started sooner, I guess, is the question. Like, why is the circular economy seemingly so late to the game in terms of manufacturing processes?
It's a really good question. This is something I've thought about ad nauseum. I think the main thought that I've come to on this is the end consumer, the person like you or I, buying a thing actually now wants that thing to be made better. And in the past, this may have not been as specifically true.
You genuinely think that consumer behavior is an important driver for this kind of thing?
Oh, it's very important.
We're getting traction now in a degree that no one in the past 100 years has, because people actually want these things. And it may be small populations today, but that's starting to change. And you just need a small consumer voice that starts to escalate over time.
I saw that that you've recently done a deal with the cult Danish fashion brand Ganni to use so it seems like big fashion houses are taking notice at the design level of what you guys are doing with sustainability. Can you talk about that? I mean, do you feel like that's kind of the first step in?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we've been able to work with like the very large apparel brands, but then brands like Ganni and Arc'teryx, for example, where they're both serving a completely different customer base, but they want these sustainable raw materials. And so, for example, Ganni is like built on sustainability. That's their core brand ethos. And so it is aligned with their brand to use materials that the ones that Miranda and I are making. And so this has allowed for them to differentiate. And whether Ghani's on Paris Fashion Week or with Arc'teryx in the field, it's the same overall goal of I want to make better choices with the materials in our lives. And we see that across the different verticals of fashion, which is, I think, just showing me that it's not just a specific brand that wants this material, but the sector overall wants to change.
Like, what are the biggest challenges that you guys face?
The first stage, first launch, first commercial plant that we're doing, it has to stand. And every company that is able to get this first landing done right successfully boosts confidence for the rest of the ecosystem and everyone else to keep doing that too.
Like the average listener of Planet Visionaries is obviously environmentally minded, care about these kinds of issues. How can an individual help this kind of thing succeed? Like, how do we make, materials more circular?
For me, what has been the most transformative part of my journey has been initially when starting, just the education process of understanding what's in my closet, what am I wearing, why am I wearing this material versus this. It's just like we watch the food that we eat, but also we can watch the clothing that we wear. That is the most important thing. But just understanding what's around us, what the materials in our lives are, allows for the education process to be built. And that is, I think, the ultimate driver for why people want to change, because you learn more about the world around you. And okay, this is something that I might consider changing.
You have to really care about what is, that single item made out of. What is that thing doing to the world? How many people, is it offering people quality work in some other country? If it's so cheap, what is the cost, the hidden cost of that item? And you need to really think about, what do I stand for? Because every decision that I make, especially in the developed world, where, we just, we in America, the business of everybody is doing stuff with our capital, with our money, right? We buy stuff. We're net consumers here. So especially in this kind of an economy, you have to care, because you have so much power here that you don't even know, and it's hard for you to trace. And the more you care, the more the brands will realize, oh, traceability is important. I am beholden to customers who care. And I will need to be more selective about where I get my materials. And so then we start to put value on things like decent work quality, overtime, no child labor. Those are just social aspects, but also environmentalism, right? We're talking about things with less greenhouse gas emissions. We're talking about materials that are being recycled when they can, right? All of these things are active choices. They're part of that product, but they're just not always, most of the time, they're not on the label. And these are things that consumers have to be asking, because only if you ask for them will brands have the motivation as for a competing advantage over other brands, start to add more and more of that. But regulators as well, depending on what you do, because nobody is just a consumer. You also have a job, you're doing something in society, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're working for a brand or somewhere in the supply chain where you're a decision maker in regulating body, we have to create a world where all of these things are held accountable. Because we live in a world that's material abundant. We already have all the stuff. So it's time to get selective about what stuff should be here and how we should continue making it. We have to care, because if we don't, you're just going to get more and more of this waste and all of these problems that we have accumulated already on this planet.
For anyone listening to a podcast like this, that should be the takeaway. It's like you're the person that has the opportunity to make informed decisions, to try to do the right thing here. I'm sort of oh, that's a good point. I'm curious what each of you would say to a young person who's interested in starting on the same path, because I think it's interesting that you both started so relatively young and have now been leading successful companies. And, I think there are a lot of, college students with the same kind of youthful idealism and optimism and general desire to do good. What would you say to somebody like that to help them along this path that you guys have both successfully navigated?
I started when I was 19, and there's almost a joy in not knowing the road ahead.
Yeah.
And
I fully agree.
that is it's almost a gift in a way, because I was looking at an old notebook the other day, and it was like there was 3 steps to make this whole thing work. And I thought initially when I was 19, I thought it'd be done in like 3 years. And it's taken a little bit longer than 3 years, but of all the advice that I've gotten over the years has been, the only thing that's really been true is just to follow your heart, and your instincts are always right. And that's something that's never really led me astray. And all of the details about capital formation, hiring and firing a team, managing an enterprise, all of the different things that are required to build something, you can learn. And the only thing that you can really change is the attitude and the feelings that you have about what you're going to spend the 24 hours you have in a day doing. And it may seem like a high risk thing to do, but at the time it made perfect sense. And so I think that it's almost like, what else are you going to do with your time? Yep. And time is the only resource we truly have total control over. And so how do we best use that resource? I mean, I've been very, very fortunate to have my best friend be my co-founder, and that has also been a true blessing to be able to just do this and, okay, whatever happens today, like, we'll figure it out, and tomorrow's a new day, the sun will shine. And so that's always been, I think, also an unfair advantage that maybe Miranda and I both have had, that have really, I think, been invaluable.
You mean having the co-founder that you're actually close friends with?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you both shared that you both managed to start companies with best friends. And I mean, that's got to be unusual in the business world, no? Or is that?
You'd be surprised. People who build good, strong businesses always have something like that.
Miranda, what advice would you give to somebody in a similar position?
I fully agree with what Shay was saying. I would say that another thing, so outside of the trust your instincts, which is so important, and if I were to go back, I would say trust your instincts, care less about what other people think and say, especially when you have a very strong feeling what you're deciding to do here is the right thing. But beyond this, I think is another important thing is having a perspective of time and how this world works. Even over the past 10 years, I've seen a huge amount of change in this world. The world was not aware of this problem. I think as a young person, especially one in college, you have such a short living memory of the world. And the longer you live, the less proportionally each day or each year feels to you. And each of those changes can give you new openings to try something that maybe you even tried before, but allows you to do it in a different way and maybe succeed. And so, I think that is a perspective that encourages people to not give up, because the reality is every day that you try something is in a different context and you're learning constantly. You're trying on different people. So it can always work. There's always reason to believe it can work. And if you see it that way, it is so much more positive and motivating than jaded and discouraging.
Miranda, Shay, thanks so much for being here today. Excited to chat with you both.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
See you next time. We'll put links for both Novoloop and Ambercycle in the production notes.
Planet Visionaries is a podcast in partnership with the Rolex Perpetual Planet Initiative and a Sony Music podcast production.